Have you ever noticed how some objects just seem to uh, hum with a certain energy for you? Maybe it's a piece of jewelry that brings you comfort or, an old keepsake that holds a flood of memories.
Yeah, definitely. There's a subtle power there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And today, we're doing a deep dive into that very concept, but with a more, let's say, ancient, structured approach.
Yeah,
Talismans.
exactly. It's a surprisingly personal topic, actually, given its historical roots.
We're going to unpack how these objects are conceived, designed, given their purpose, and then, crucially, how they're actually used, to influence specific outcomes.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to really extract the most important nuggets from a stack of sources we're looking at. Israel Regardie, Foolish Fish, Caitlin Coppock, Demian Eccles, and even classics like The Greater Key of King Solomon.
That's quite a range.
It is. We want to cut through the sometimes, overwhelming amount of information out there.
Which there definitely is. It can be a lot.
And give you a clear, actionable understanding of what a talisman truly is. Think of it as your personalized shortcut, maybe, to becoming well-informed on this fascinating subject.
Okay, so let's get right to it then. Fundamentally, what exactly is a talisman? How do we define its core essence?
Well, beyond just a lucky charm, the real insight, I think, is that its power isn't just there, it's actually imparted.
Imparted, how so?
As Regardie highlights, it's basically any object, could be sacred, could be mundane, maybe with writing, maybe not, that's purposefully consecrated.
Consecrated, meaning set apart.
Yeah, set apart through focused ritual or like deep medication. And it has a very specific, deliberate aim, bringing good luck, achieving a goal, that sort of thing.
Okay, so if a talisman is about actively bringing something in, attracting energy, how's that different from an amulet? Because I know I've always gotten those two mixed up.
Oh, it's incredibly common to confuse them. It really is. But traditionally, there is a pretty clear line.
So what's the line?
Regardie suggests an amulet is primarily for protection, against sickness, bad luck, negativity. A talisman, on the other hand, provides or attracts energy.
So one's like a magnet, pulling things towards you, and the other's more like a shield.
That's a great analogy. Yeah. Foolish Fish gives an even clearer distinction for you. A talisman provides or attracts things like wealth, courage, love. It can even compensate for a lacking energy in someone's birth chart.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, imagine needing more Venus energy, say, for someone whose chart might be prone to sadness, maybe very Saturnian. A Venus talisman could help provide that balance.
Gotcha. And the amulet?
The amulet purely prevents unwanted energy. It's a shield, like you said. Think of that classic evil eye jewelry. That's very much an amulet.
Okay, that makes sense.
For this deep dive, though, we'll probably just stick to the term talisman mostly, because it broadly covers the concepts we're exploring. Protective talismans do exist, so it overlaps.
Fair enough. Now, what's truly fascinating is what gives a talisman its juice, right? Its actual power. How does an ordinary object become charged?
Yeah, that's the core question. It's often described as a magical figure charged with the force it's intended to represent.
Okay.
But maybe a better way to think of it is like a cosmic photograph.
A cosmic photograph. I love that. So
Yeah.
explain that. Like your birth chart is a snapshot of the planets when you were born.
Yeah,
This is a snapshot of something else.
exactly right. A talisman is a specific snapshot of a particular astrological setup, the precise day, the time, the ritual circumstances when it was actually created.
Oh, okay.
It's designed to be a concentrated capture of those specific cosmic energies, like bottling a moment in time, energetically speaking.
And it's not just about cosmic forces then, is it? Is there also maybe a psychological element at play here? What else contributes once it's made?
Oh, absolutely. You're hitting on a crucial point there. Regardie really emphasizes this powerful autosuggestive effect.
Autosuggestive, meaning
Simply by its presence and your conscious knowledge of what it represents, the talisman subtly influences your mindset, your actions.
so it's reinforcing your own intention.
Precisely. It doesn't necessarily add something entirely new from the outside. It helps evoke and reinforce positive aspects or intentions already within you. It helps you tap into your own latent potential for that goal.
That makes so much sense. It's like a constant, tangible reminder, keeping your goal top of mind, activating that part of yourself.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about what these things can actually be made from. Does it have to be something expensive like silver or gold or super traditional?
Surprisingly, no, not necessarily. The sources widely agree on remarkable versatility. A talisman can be made from, almost anything, any given material, as they say.
Like what? I saw some wild examples. A ceramic rabbit, a lump of sugar.
Yeah.
Really?
Precisely. As long as it holds some symbolic connection, some inherent relation, to the specific energy you're trying to attract or provide.
Okay, but they're traditional materials too, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Stone, paper, and metal are historically very common. And yes, those metal to planet correspondences are a big part of the tradition.
Right. Silver for the moon, gold for the sun.
Iron for Mars, tin for Jupiter, copper for Venus, lead for Saturn. Mercury was a bit tricky, sometimes tin or brass. And yeah, virgin parchment pops up a lot historically.
So what's the key insight there? Why those specific materials?
Well, the material isn't just a container, it's seen as an amplifier. The traditional wisdom is that the very substance of the talisman needs to inherently resonate with the specific cosmic energy you're invoking.
So it's about sympathetic magic. Like attracts like.
Pretty much, ensuring the object itself is a perfect energetic match. That adaptability based on correspondence, that's key.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating and maybe a little intimidating for me. The timing. The sources absolutely hammer home this idea of election. Why is the when so critical for a talisman?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. Election, the timing of creation, it isn't just picking the right day or, a general good time slot. No, no.
It's more specific than that.
Much more. It's about capturing incredibly precise astrological alignments, especially for what they call a highly elected talisman. That's like the pinnacle.
Okay, let's unpack this. What makes a talisman highly elected? What are these precise conditions we're talking about?
Okay, first, the planet you're working with, let's say Venus for love or beauty, it needs to be in exceptional cosmic shape.
Exceptional shape, like astrologically strong.
Exactly. Think of it like a sports star playing on their home turf. In astrology, that means a planet is in a sign where it feels incredibly strong and dignified, like Venus in Libra, for instance.
Okay, strong planet. What else?
Second, you need to avoid cosmic static. That static comes from what astrologers call malefic or challenging influences from other planets, usually Mars or Saturn, if they're in a difficult aspect to your main planet.
Difficult aspect. Like they're arguing across the chart.
Kind of, yeah. Imagine two planets sort of glaring at each other that can disrupt the energy flow. So your chosen planet must not be afflicted by these difficult connections. No static interference.
No cosmic static, got it.
Yeah.
What else? This sounds complex already.
Third, there's the moon. The moon is seen as this sort of energetic antenna connecting the heavens to Earth. So it needs to be making a positive connection, a good aspect to your main planet. And the moon itself has to be in good condition, not weak or afflicted either.
Okay, strong planet, no static, happy moon. What else?
Fourth, the ruler of the ascendant. That's the planet ruling the zodiac sign that's literally rising on the eastern horizon at the exact moment you begin the creation.
And that changes quickly, right?
Very quickly, about every 2 hours or so. This ruling planet also needs to be in good shape and ideally configured, meaning in a good astrological relationship to your target planet.
Okay, that's 4 things.
Fifth, for the power to really manifest effectively, the target planet ideally needs to be in a prominent place in the chart at that moment. Either right on the ascendant, that rising point, or at the midheaven, the highest point in the sky, often linked to destiny or public life.
Prominent placement. And there's one more.
Yet finally, all of this has to line up with the specific planetary hour for that planet.
Wow. Okay, laying it all out like that,
Yeah.
finding that perfect moment sounds, well, almost impossible, like
Right.
cosmically difficult.
It truly is. These optimal election windows are shockingly rare, and they can be incredibly short.
How short?
Sometimes maybe only 12 minutes. Or perhaps an hour if you're really lucky.
That's right.
Yeah, and for certain planets or very specific intentions, these perfect moments might not even happen every single year.
Seriously, not every year. That means for you, the listener, trying to get a truly powerful, highly elected talisman. It's like winning the cosmic lottery. It requires immense patience.
You've really nailed a key point there. It takes huge patience, real dedication. I've heard stories of practitioners waiting years to, as one source beautifully puts it, cherry-pick the finest window of time.
Cherry pick, I like that.
It really shows that these potent talismans aren't just, whipped up on a whim. They come from deep knowledge and immense patience.
That definitely puts them in a different light. Gives you a whole new level of respect for the process, honestly.
Right.
But, okay, if someone can't wait years for that perfect 12-minute window, is there a more accessible entry point for beginners? Or are they just out of luck?
No, absolutely not out of luck. There are broader timing rules, which are a much more accessible starting point for just understanding the basic rhythm,
Okay, like what?
like the planetary days. Each day of the week has its traditional planetary association. Monday is the moon's day, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday Mercury, Thursday Jupiter, Friday Venus, Saturday Saturn, and Sunday belongs to the sun.
Right, that's the basic framework. I think most people know that one. What about the planetary hours within the day?
Okay, so you take the time from sunrise to sunset on any given day, and you divide that whole period into 12 equal parts. These are the daylight planetary hours.
Equal parts, but not necessarily 60 minutes each.
Exactly, because daylight hours change with the seasons, right? So the length of these hours varies. The very first hour, right after sunrise, belongs to the planet of that day.
So the first hour of Monday is the moon's hour.
First hour of Tuesday is Mars's hour, and so on. Then the hours cycle through in a specific traditional order, the Chaldean order for the rest of the day, and then through the night, too.
Okay, that sounds much more manageable for someone just dipping their toes in. You just need to know sunrise, sunset times, and do a little math.
It is. For example, if you wanted to create something with Mars energy, say for protection, but specifically for your immune system, Foolish Fish suggests you might aim for the Mars hour of Sunday, Sunday being the sun's day, associated with vitality.
Ah, interesting combination there, layering the energies. All right, let's talk about actually making the talisman. So you found your when, maybe it's that super rare 12-minute window, maybe it's just the right planetary day and hour. How do you actually go about crafting this object? What about the materials, the design?
Well, we mentioned the versatility of materials earlier, but what's strongly emphasized in several sources is that making it yourself personally manufacturing it can make it much more meaningful and effective.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're putting your own energy, your own intention directly into it, right? From the get-go.
Precisely. Your personal energy definitely seems to boost it. Now, design-wise, this idea of a sigil keeps coming up. What is a sigil exactly, and how do you create one? It sounds a bit mysterious.
It does, but it's actually quite practical. A sigil is essentially a symbolic signature. It's like a condensed image that represents your desire, your intention, almost like a little picture of your goal.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the brilliance of using sigils, as Damien Eccles explains it, lies in how they speak directly to your subconscious mind.
How so?
Well, our deep mind, much like how our dreams work, communicates primarily in symbols and images, not really in linear language. So by translating your conscious desire, your words, into a visual sigil, you're creating a direct, powerful command for your inner self to work on manifesting that intention.
Okay, so how do you do that translation? Is there a method?
One popular method comes from the Golden Dawn tradition and uses something called the rose cross diagram.
The rose cross. Okay, how does that help you translate a word into a symbol?
You basically take your word or concept, maybe protection or creativity, and you simplify it visually using this specific diagram. You'd get some tracing paper, put it over the rose cross diagram, which has English letters arranged around its petals in a set way.
Okay.
You start by drawing a little circle on the tracing paper, right over the first letter of your word on the diagram underneath.
And then you just connect the dots, basically.
Pretty much. You draw lines connecting that letter to the next letter in your word, following the path on the rose cross diagram. You keep doing that for all the letters, essentially spelling out the word in lines, tracing its path across the diagram.
What happens at the end?
When you get to the very last letter, you usually add a little crossbar or a short perpendicular line to signify that the sigil is complete. Finish.
And then you can refine it.
Exactly. The powerful thing is once you have that basic trace shape, you can then redraw it, stylize it, make it look cool, make it bigger or smaller to fit your talisman perfectly. The core shape, however you stylize it, holds the intention you encoded.
That's actually a really practical step-by-step method for you, the listener, to translate words into powerful symbols. Very neat. I like that.
It's quite straightforward once you actually sit down and try it. Now, besides these unique, personalized sigils, what other traditional symbols might you find etched onto a talisman?
Oh, there's a whole toolbox, really. Magic squares are a big one. You see those a lot in historical examples.
Magic squares, those number grids. Tell us more about them. How do they work in talisman?
Exactly, those number grids. These are grids where every row, column, and even the main diagonals add up to the same sum. It's kind of neat mathematically.
But how do they relate to magic or intention? Well, sigils themselves can be derived from the numerical values of letters, often Hebrew letters, using systems like the Kabbalah of 9 chambers. It's not just random math. It's an ancient system that maps letters to numbers. These numbers are then positioned on a grid associated with a specific planet, creating a geometric blueprint that embodies the essence of a sacred word or name associated with that planet.
So each planet has its own square.
Yep, Each planet has its own specific magic square with a unique size. Saturn's is a 3 by 3 grid, Mars's is 5 by 5, the Sun's is 6 by 6, and so on.
Fascinating. So it's another symbolic language encoded numerically and geometrically. What about actual words or inscriptions? They seem pretty central in a lot of older talismans.
Absolutely fundamental. Traditionally, you see things like biblical names of God, names of angels, or specific spirits invoked, often inscribed in Hebrew, Latin, or Greek, the classical magical languages.
And there's this really powerful idea called scriptural authorization, right? Or commemoration. What's that about?
Precisely. This is where you use specific verses from Scripture, verses that talk about a divine act performed in the past to basically encourage a repeat performance for the person carrying the talisman. It's quite clever.
Whoa, hold on. So you're not just quoting, you're actually invoking. You're saying, hey, God, you did this before, please do it again for me.
You're essentially presenting a divine precedent. You're saying, look, you demonstrated this power before, you spoke these words back then, now please activate that same power again right here, right now, for this specific purpose.
Can you give an example?
Rigardi mentions an engineer making a solar talisman, maybe for enlightenment or success, and inscribing the verse, and God said, let there be light, directly connecting their work and intention to that primal act of divine creation. It's considered pretty potent.
That is powerful. Wow. But does it have to be those classical languages or scriptures? Or can people use something more modern, more personal today? What if those texts don't resonate?
Well, traditionally, yes, those were the go-to. But modern practice seems much more flexible. Rigardi's view, for instance, is that there's no inherent reason why you should be confined only to the Bible or ancient languages.
So what's the key then?
The real key seems to be the emotional connection or deep personal involvement you have with the quotation. So you could potentially use passages from the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, maybe Khalil Gibran, even Shakespeare, if a particular line resonates profoundly with you and the talisman's specific purpose.
Ah.
That emotional resonance, that connection seems to be the sole requirement, really.
That feels much more personal and accessible for you, the listener. Makes it less intimidating, maybe. What other kinds of symbols might pop up on these things?
All sorts of things, really. Planetary symbols, obviously, zodiac signs, geomantic figures, which come from a system of earth divination.
Geomantic figures.
Also, Tatvik elemental symbols, which are from an Indian system. Earth is represented by a yellow square, fire by a red triangle, air by a blue circle, water by a silver crescent, and spirit or ether is represented by a black egg shape.
The black egg for spirit. That's intriguing. I haven't heard that one before.
It is quite evocative, isn't it? There's even a technique mentioned for making flashing talismans using complementary colors like red and green or blue and orange placed right next to each other.
Flashing? Why?
The idea is to create a kind of visual flash or vibration that's meant to energetically boost the talisman's power, make it more active visually.
Okay, a visual energy boost. That's an interesting technique. Anything else?
And integrating tarot card imagery is pretty common too. You know, maybe using the visual from the Ace of Cups card for something related to joy or emotional fulfillment, or maybe the Ace of Swords for seeking spiritual help or clarity. It's borrowing that established symbolic language.
Makes sense. Leveraging existing symbols. Now, you mentioned angelic names earlier when talking about inscriptions. How are those typically figured out or used in the design? Are they just chosen arbitrarily, or is there a system?
Oh, definitely not arbitrary, usually. They're often derived using quite systematic methods, frequently based on astrology, particularly the zodiac.
How does that work?
For instance, you can group the zodiac signs by element fire, earth, air, water, which gives you what they call triplicities. Then you take letters associated with those specific signs, or even specific degrees within the zodiac according to certain systems, and you add specific Hebrew suffixes like al or yah, which denote divinity or angelic nature. Through that kind of process, you can systematically form angelic names.
So they're methodically derived, calculated almost, not just pulled out of thin air. That's a key distinction, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's not random. For example, using one method, letters derived from the fire triplicity signs might form names like Hit or Vu. These derived names can then be incorporated into the talisman's design, maybe written around the edge, or they might be names that are specifically invoked during the charging ritual itself.
Right, invoked during charging. Okay, activating the talisman. This seems like the absolute make or break moment. So you've nailed the timing, the when, you've got your design ready, your sigils, chosen materials, inscriptions, all the symbols. But right now, it's just an object, isn't it? Maybe a beautifully crafted object, but still just stuff.
Uh-huh.
How do you actually turn it on? What's the charge? How do you make it live?
This is absolutely the critical step. You're right. Because without it, the object is, as one source rather bluntly puts it, basically dead and inert material. It
Yeah.
needs activation, it needs charging to actually do anything.
So without the charge, it's just a pretty object, useless for its purpose.
Pretty much, yeah. It won't fulfill its function.
Okay, so how do you charge it? Are there different methods, different levels of complexity, perhaps?
There are indeed different approaches described. They range from quite personal, direct methods to some very elaborate, full-blown ceremonies. Demian Eccles describes a method using direct energy visualization that sounds quite intense.
How does that one work? It sounds like it requires some serious focus.
It does. As you physically draw each line or character of your sigil onto the talisman material, you consciously inhale what he calls universal light. You could call it chi, prana, ki, whatever term resonates with you. You visualize this light filling you up completely, like charging your own battery.
Okay.
Then, as you exhale and actually make the stroke with your pen or your engraving tool, you actively direct that energy. You visualize it flowing down your arm, through your hand, into the tool, and embedding itself right into the talisman material with every single stroke you make.
With every stroke. Wow, doing that must infuse a tremendous amount of focused energy directly into the object. It's like you're literally breathing life into it with your intention and energy, channeling it directly into the material as you create it.
It's incredibly focused. Yeah, very intense and deeply personal because it's your energy, your breath, your visualization doing the work.
I can imagine. Now, what about more complex methods? You mentioned Israel Regardie earlier. Did he outline different approaches, maybe more ceremonial ones?
Regardie described more elaborate approaches, yes. One involves using a powerful meditation technique from Western esotericism called the middle pillar exercise first.
The middle pillar.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that for? How does that contribute to charging a talisman specifically?
It's basically a technique to strongly charge your own aura, your personal energy field. You do this through a specific visualization of spheres of light aligned with centers within your body.
So you charge yourself up first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you feel fully charged up, you then visualize changing the color of your own energy field to match the element or the planet of your talisman. Say a vibrant blue for a water talisman, or maybe a fiery red for Mars.
Okay, you change your aura color. Then what?
Then, while holding the talisman, you repeatedly vibrate the appropriate divine or angelic names associated with its purpose.
Vibrate them. You mean like chanting? How does that make it more effective than just saying the name?
Yes, it's like chanting, but it's often described as much more than just recitation. When you vibrate a divine or angelic name in this context, you're not just speaking words, you're projecting sound with focused intent, feeling its resonance physically throughout your whole body, and imagining that vibration extending energetically into the talisman you're holding.
So you become like a tuning fork for that energy.
That's a great way to put it. You become a living conduit for that specific frequency. You're using your own charged, colored energy field to power up the talisman, kind of like jump-starting it with your own internal battery, as Regardie suggests.
Okay, using your own charged field to power it up. I like that analogy. And then there's the full-blown ceremonial magic approach, the really elaborate one you see in old grimoires.
Right.
What does that typically involve?
That involves quite a bit more, usually. First, meticulously preparing the ritual space, cleansing it. Then performing specific rituals, maybe something like the supreme ritual of the pentagram, which is a core Golden Dawn ritual.
What does that ritual do?
It's designed for both banishing unwanted energies from the space and invoking the desired energies, often performed while facing the 4 cardinal directions. Then you'd invoke specific divine names linked to your talisman's goal.
Okay, so clearing space, invoking powers. Then what?
Then there's often deep, controlled breathing exercises involved, but while doing them, you might mentally pronounce specific force letters. It's like an energetic alphabet from certain traditions, and visualize yourself breathing these letters onto the talisman itself.
Breathing energy letters onto it. That sounds incredibly precise and focused, like really detailed work.
It is. Then you might make symbolic gestures over it, like the sign of the Rose and Cross. You might trace a protective circle around it right there on the altar and make invoking pentagrams over it with a ritual tool or your hand, usually 5 times as common. And while doing all this, you'd likely be reading specific invocations or prayers out loud, maybe forming related sigils in the air with your hand or a wand as you pronounce key names or words of power.
That is a lot of steps. It sounds like quite a performance. What's the underlying purpose there? Why all of that complexity for ceremonial magic?
The goal really seems to be twofold. First, to generate this incredibly powerful vortex, this whirl of focused energy coming from you, the practitioner. You're building up a huge charge. And second, to use that personal vortex you've created to attract the corresponding cosmic force out there in the atmosphere, the specific universal energy you want, and then funnel it powerfully into the talisman.
So you're creating a conduit, a bridge.
Exactly. You're becoming a conduit to channel that specific force directly into the object. Caitlin Kopic also stresses the importance of fumigation, which is basically smoke bathing the talisman with specific corresponding incense.
Fumigation,
Ah.
like smudging.
Similar idea, yeah. It's seen as giving breath to the spirit or energy you've just invoked into the talisman, like a child taking its first breath and becoming fully alive of this ether, as she puts it. It's considered an important part of the ritual process, integrating it fully into the physical world.
That's a beautiful way to put it, giving it breath. Okay, so whether it's through intense personal visualization, the middle pillar method, or a full ceremony, it's charged, it's activated. What's the final crucial step before you start putting it to use?
There's a really crucial warning from Regardi here. Never perform a banishing ritual over the newly consecrated talisman itself.
Why not? That seems counterintuitive. Wouldn't you want to clear away any stray energy?
Because that would simply decharge it.
Mm.
Banishing, by its nature, clears energy away. You just spent all that effort putting the energy in.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Don't undo your own work. So what do you do instead?
You wrap it carefully. Usually the recommendation is in clean white silk or linen. This protects it both physically and, importantly, energetically, letting that charge settle in undisturbed.
Okay, using and caring for the talisman. So now it's charged, it's alive, so to speak, buzzing with the intended energy. What do you actually do with it day to day, and how do you look after this charged object?
Typically, proximity is key. You keep it very close by.
Mm.
Often wearing it is recommended, sometimes directly against the skin for maximum contact.
Or if you can't wear it.
Others might keep it in a wallet, maybe tucked into a phone case if it's something flat like a paper talisman, or even kept under their pillow while sleeping.
Why keep it so close? Is it just so you don't lose it after all that work?
Well, that's part of it, practicality-wise, but it's more for its constant presence and that autosuggestive effect we talked about earlier.
Right, the reminder.
Exactly. The idea is it's always subtly working, both energetically interacting with your personal field and reinforcing your subconscious intention, keeping that goal active in your awareness.
Do people use them constantly?
Some people use them daily, perhaps to help balance out challenging aspects in their astrological birth chart continuously, or simply to keep a specific intention like focus or protection front and center in their mind throughout the day.
So is it a set it and forget it kind of tool once it's charged and close? Or does it need ongoing upkeep, like, I don't know, changing the oil in a car?
Hey, maybe not changing the oil, but it definitely seems to need care, like any energetic tool, as one source puts it. It's not entirely set and forget. There's often talk of an incubation period right after it's made and charged.
Incubation, like letting the energy settle in, like you said about wrapping it.
Exactly. Maybe for a full lunar cycle, like 28 days is sometimes suggested. During this time, you generally keep it undisturbed, perhaps still wrapped up, away from bright light or handling by others.
Why?
The idea is to let the charge really settle in, integrate fully into the material without any interference or dissipation. Let it stabilize and mature, almost.
Okay. And what about after that? Does it need maintenance? Like
Yep.
recharging?
Recharging might be needed eventually, yeah. It probably depends on the talisman, the strength of the initial charge, and how actively it's being used or drawn upon.
How do you recharge it then? Do you have to go through the whole complex ritual again?
Not always, apparently. Sometimes recharging might just mean letting it rest again, perhaps in a quiet, dark place for a while to recover. Or you might place it periodically on an altar dedicated to the same planetary energy to kind of top it up, energetically speaking.
Ah, like putting it back on its charging station.
Exactly. They're often referred to as portable magic, or even like magical battery packs.
I like that. A magical battery pack, ready to use when you need a boost, but maybe you don't have time for a full complex ritual right then and there. That's incredibly practical.
You can sort of draw on that stored energy when you need it without the full setup. Now, something else the sources mentioned that's really relevant here, especially given how rare those optimal timing windows are. Talismanic materia.
Ah, yes, talismanic materia. How do those fit into this picture? If finding those perfect election windows is so darn difficult, How do these other substances help?
This is a really fascinating and honestly quite practical aspect for you, the listener, because you're absolutely right. Those perfect windows are super rare. So, talismanic materia, things like specific herbs, gemstones, metals, sometimes even carefully prepared animal parts historically, they can act almost like a workaround for that tricky timing issue.
A workaround. How does that work?
Yeah.
Because that sounds incredibly useful if timing is the bottleneck.
Well, think about it this way. These materials themselves, the herb, the stone, the metal, they can be harvested or collected or prepared during their own perfect astrological windows.
Ah, so the material already holds the desired energy because of when it was gathered. It's like a bottled election.
Exactly, you got it. The herb or the stone already embodies that ideal celestial energy because of when and how it was gathered or processed. It's like a bottled election, as you said. Or maybe think of it like a celestial supplement you can take.
A celestial supplement. I like that too.
So even if the planets aren't aligned right now for, say, strong Jupiter magic for abundance, you could use material already associated with Jupiter, maybe tin or specific herbs like sage or hyssop that were harvested under a strong Jupiter influence within your current ritual or working.
So you add that pre-charged ingredient.
Right. It lets you compound the energy, build its strength, or incorporate that specific quality into other kinds of spell work, even if the current stars aren't perfect for your main goal right now. It's a really powerful way to kind of hack the timing issue, or at least supplement the current energies.
That's a huge insight, actually. A
Yeah.
real game changer for anyone trying this practically. Dealing with the reality of astrological timing. Okay, disposing of a talisman. This feels important too. What about when a talisman's job is done?
Mhm.
Or maybe you just feel it's time to move on from that particular intention. How do you release its energy respectfully? You don't just toss it in the bin, right, after all that effort and connection.
No, definitely not. Just chucking it out would feel pretty disrespectful after everything. You treat it with respect, even at the end of its life cycle. The most commonly recommended method, surprisingly perhaps, is actually burning it.
Burning it. Wow. Again, after all that work to create and charge it, burning it feels so counterintuitive. It seems like such a destructive act.
It does, I know. But there's a deep symbolism there. It's often compared to the practice of Tibetan monks who create these incredibly intricate sand mandalas.
Right, they spend days making them.
Exactly. You put immense effort, focus, deep intention into creating this beautiful charged thing. And then when its purpose is fulfilled or the time is right, you respectfully disperse it. You release that accumulated energy back into the universe, letting it return to the source.
So it completes the cycle, creation and dissolution.
Precisely. It completes the cycle of creation and dissolution. It's seen as a respectful release, not just destruction.
Okay, I can really see the symbolism there when you put it like that. The cycle of creation and dissolution. That makes a lot more sense than just thinking of it as destroying it.
And some sources, like Caitlin Kopic, suggest adding just a single drop of Ypres Milan oil, which is a traditional sacred anointing oil, to the talisman just before you burn it.
Why do that? Does it enhance the release somehow?
And it's said to enhance the release, yeah. To give it one final focused burst of energy directed towards its completed goal as it disperses back into the ether. A final punctuation mark, maybe.
Ethical considerations and advice for the curious. Okay, we've covered a lot here. The what, the when, the how, the use, the care, even the respectful release.
Yeah.
If someone listening is intrigued by all this, really connecting with it, and maybe wants to explore making a talisman themselves, what are some key principles or pieces of advice from the sources? What should they really keep in mind before jumping in?
Okay, first big one seems to be, especially if you're just starting out, definitely keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it right away.
Simple how? What kind of materials should they begin with, for example?
Use materials that aren't precious, things that are easily replaceable. Paper is great for sigils. Or maybe a simple stone you find in nature that you feel drawn to, something you can easily break or bury later if needed. Don't feel you have to jump straight into engraving expensive silver on your very first try.
Yeah, that makes sense. Less pressure.
It's less intimidating and it takes the pressure off while you're learning the process, figuring things out.
Good advice. And preparation seemed absolutely vital in everything we discussed, didn't it? Especially with those potentially very tight time windows for election.
It truly is. Preparation is paramount. So plan your workspace beforehand, meticulously, have everything you need laid out, and then think about how you'll prepare yourself. The sources actually mention dressing for the planet you're working with as a way to align yourself.
Dressing for the planet. Seriously, like what if I'm working with Jupiter for expansion, I should wear blue or purple?
Jupiter is often associated with Priests, dignity, royalty. So yeah, perhaps something respectful in those colors. Even formal wear could help get you in the mindset. Venus is linked to beauty and elegance, so maybe something aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. What about Saturn?
Saturn is more austere, maybe darker colors, traditional associations with black or deep indigo. One source even amusingly suggests, maybe a bit tongue-in-cheek, embracing something a bit stinky and covered in ash if you're really trying to embody that intense, reclusive Saturnian hermit vibe for a particular working.
Oh, and maybe not that far from most people. So for Jupiter, iron my best robe. For Saturn, perhaps just embrace the unwashed hermit chic. I love it. That's brilliant.
Well, the point is, it's about aligning yourself, your whole being, with the energy you're trying to invoke, getting in the zone.
Makes sense.
And an energetic cleansing of yourself in the space beforehand is almost always recommended. Ritual baths are often mentioned. Clear the decks before you start any working. Remove interference.
Makes sense. Get rid of any energetic static before you begin.
Yeah.
And the ritual flow itself, when you're actually doing the consecration, is there a general pattern people tend to follow?
Usually, yes, there's a kind of common structure. It often starts with setting the mood, lighting appropriate candles first, perhaps, then burning corresponding incense to purify and consecrate the space itself.
Ambiance and cleansing, check.
Then you typically do some kind of exaltation or invocation of the planetary power you're working with, praising its qualities, its nature, really trying to connect with it, feel its presence, get in tune with that specific energy.
Connect with the power. Then what?
And then you state your specific request, clearly articulate what you want the talisman to do. And this shouldn't be just rattling off words. It should really come from the heart. It's sometimes called making prayers from the altar of the heart, spoken with real feeling, real conviction.
I like that phrasing, prayers from the altar of the heart. Very evocative. And given those potentially super narrow time windows we talked about for election, what about the practicalities of the design process itself during the ritual? Getting complex symbols right under that kind of pressure sounds tough.
It is. That's why it's highly, highly recommended to pre-draw any complex designs you plan to use. Have your final pattern completely worked out and ready to go on paper beforehand.
So you're not trying to figure out the lines or remember how the sigil goes during that precious 12-minute window or whatever it is. You're just transferring it, focusing purely on the energy work.
Exactly. It takes a huge amount of pressure off during the critical moment. You can then focus fully on the energy work, the charging, the intention, not fumbling with the drawing itself or making mistakes.
And mistakes matter.
Apparently so. Clarity really matters. Make sure any inscriptions are legible, lines are clean and clear. Messiness or mistakes, according to some sources, can distort or even nullify the intended energy. Precision counts.
Okay, precision is key. Got it. Now, what about the ethics of it all? Using this kind of focused intention, wielding this kind of subtle power, are there warnings or advice in the sources about responsible use?
That's a really important point that comes up, especially in the older texts, like the Greater Key of King Solomon. There's a strong caution about not misusing this knowledge. Don't use it for harmful purposes or, illicit aims.
What's the traditional warning? What happens if you do misuse it, according to these texts?
The warning is essentially that the beneficent angels or the positive cosmic forces you're calling upon might eventually get weary of unethical demands. They might just stop responding to your calls. Or worse, some traditions warn that negative workings could potentially backfire energetically onto the practitioner themselves.
So karma, basically.
You could frame it that way, yeah. The core message is really about integrity. Your intention shapes the outcome, and using this kind of practice for negativity or harm, it's strongly advised against. Wield the power responsibly.
Understood. Integrity is key. Sounds like a universal principle, really. And for someone developing their own style, maybe experimenting within these frameworks, two things seem to stand out for you, the listener, to keep in mind. Consistency and personal creativity.
Absolutely. Use a consistent system within a single operation. For things like numerology or deriving names, if you start using Hebrew gematria for one part of the process, stick with it for that operation. Don't just randomly mix and match different systems haphazardly within the same talismanic working. Keep it coherent internally.
Okay, internal consistency and creativity.
And definitely don't just be a slavish imitator, as one text colorfully puts it. Don't just blindly copy old diagrams without understanding them or feeling a personal connection. Tap into your own ingenium, your innate creativity, your intuition when designing the talisman, especially the sigils.
Your own spark. Yes, that makes sense. Your personal touch, your unique connection to the symbols and the intention, that could actually make the talisman more powerful for you. Make it your own.
Precisely. That personal investment is key. Any final little practical tips that came up? Like, what do you do with sketches or rough drafts once you're done?
Yes, actually, a small but apparently significant detail came up about that. Once you have your final design ready to go and you're about to transfer it onto the actual talisman material, you should meticulously destroy any rough drafts or preliminary sketches you made.
Destroy them. How? Burning them again seems to be the usual recommendation. Why do that? It seems a bit dramatic for just a doodle or a practice run.
Well, it's seen partly as a mark of respect for the sacred symbols you've been working with. You don't leave them lying around casually. But it also ensures there are no sort of half-formed intentions or energetic loose ends left lingering from those drafts.
Ah, tidying up energetically.
Exactly. Ensuring all your focus and the finalized energy goes into the final piece, not diluted across practice versions. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Neatness counts, energetically too. And perhaps most critically, the sources really seem to emphasize, don't even attempt the more complex versions of talismanic magic without getting familiar with the underlying philosophy first, particularly the occult and philosophical principles behind things like the Kabbalah or Neoplatonism, depending on the tradition.
Right, so do your homework. Understand the foundations before you try to build the house. Lay the groundwork philosophically before you jump into the deep end of practice.
This has been quite the journey, hasn't it? A real deep dive into the history, the incredibly detailed creation process, the critical timing, the charging, the using, the caring for, even the disposal, all these different aspects of talismans.
It really has. It's this amazing blend, isn't it, of what seems like precise, almost mathematical cosmic clockwork, combined with really specific ritual actions and fueled by deep, deep personal intention.
It truly is. And we really hope this whole exploration has given you, our listener, a unique window into what is, let's face it, a pretty complex and nuanced magical practice. Hopefully it offers some solid steps if you're feeling curious to explore, but also maybe some really intriguing ideas that go way beyond just a surface level understanding of a lucky charm.
It definitely highlights the sheer dedication, the depth of knowledge, and often the incredible patience that goes into seriously trying to capture and work with these subtle energies effectively. It's certainly not trivial work at its higher levels.
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If objects can be intentionally imbued with specific energies, if they can hold and release a charge over time through focused intent and ritual, what does that suggest about the unseen forces, the intentions, maybe even the charges that might be shaping our own lives, perhaps without us even realizing it?
That's a big question.
And following from that, what untapped potential might lie within our own conscious intentional creation, not just in making charged objects, but maybe in consciously shaping our own reality, our own experiences.
Something truly worth pondering indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.